This is the Gold and Blue Nation podcast presented by Mountain State Oral and Facial Surgery, home of the same day smile. Ryan Decker and Cody Nespor here with you inside the Gold and Blue Nation studios. Cody, Big 12 baseball season, WVU baseball season finally here.
Yep. If you don't go outside or look outside or check the temperature, hey, it almost feels like baseball season.
Exactly.
But yeah, believe it or not, they start this Friday, 3-game series down in Georgia Southern. We got to talk to second-year manager Steve Sabins for quite a while the other day. And he pretty much just went position by position, kind of accidentally. We just kind of...
We let him that way.
Yeah, but didn't set up. So this baseball team, obviously coming off 2 good years, it's more of a mix this year, returners, newcomers. Almost half and half, a lot more transfers this year than the last 2 years. So we don't know the team as well, but because of getting to talk to Steve, we learned a lot. I think let's start with returners, who we know. The big one, Gavin Kelly, kind of, the way people talk about it, the way he played last year, kind of positioned to be the next star hitter for these Mountaineers.
Right, exactly. He's, in a way, and because you've obviously got a really simple Pennsylvania connection, right? He's almost this version or this team's version of J.J. Weatherholt to a degree, where he had a really nice freshman campaign, getting some pub. He's really highly regarded, especially after what he did in the Cape last summer. So Gavin Kelly, he's kind of your leader. He's going to be what kind of gets the engine going for West Virginia offensively. Steve said earlier this week that he'll be top 1, 2, 3 in the order, which is really interesting because how many catcher, second baseman, former shortstops hit 1, 2, and 3 in the order, along with some other former shortstops, right? That positional and that order isn't exactly status quo, I think, in baseball. But yeah, Gavin Kelly's what's going to make this program go this season, certainly if he can have anywhere close to the sophomore season that J.J. Weatherholt had a few years ago. But yeah, Gavin Kelly, and then really, I think you got the same sense the other day as well talking to Steve. Versatility is where this team will thrive, or maybe what is the downfall, but I think it's where they thrive.
Yeah, and you hear teams take on the personality of their manager or maybe their star player, and if Gavin's personality or his defining trait is versatility, I think that bleeds down because Steve said he actually feels spoiled by Gavin because he can play catcher, he can play second, short, third, put him in the outfield. So Steve basically said he views it like, hey, if somebody's underperforming, just put Gavin there.
Yep.
Right? Like, third baseman isn't hitting, put Gavin there. Problems at catcher, just put Gavin there. Hey, outfield isn't what we thought, just put Gavin out in the out. So, and like you said, that seems to bleed down where another returner, kind of Mr. Reliable, Brody Kresser at shortstop, played every game at shortstop last year. Sounds like he's not going to play any this year. Off-season shoulder surgery. So he moves, I don't know, he does not have the build of a first baseman. But it sounds like he's going to start out as a first baseman.
Right, so it sounds like, and again, the really interesting thing about this WVU baseball team this year, and again, we'll see this if it plays out this way, right? We'll see it. That's how it goes every year. You think you know what's going to happen, and then after those first 10, 11, 12 non-conference games, you get a better sense, right? But the way things appear to be positioned right now, the versatility of this team, everything hinges on what happens at that catcher position. So if Gavin Kelly catches, sounds like Brody Kresser will be at second, which is just one spot over from where he was last year. If Gavin Kelly is not catching and Matt Gravline, the Ohio State transfer, is behind the plate, then it sounds like Gavin Kelly's at second, and then it sounds like Brody Kresser is at first. Matt Einish, another transfer implant to this program, going to be your starting shortstop. There's some options over at third base as well, but so everything hinges on catcher, which if you look at that the other way, if Gavin Kelly catching, obviously it sounds like Brody Kresser at first, maybe it's Ben Lumsden, another returner over at first with Brody at second, and then possibly Matt Gravline out in the outfield at left field. Again, you don't see that too often, a catcher who can move out to the outfield. So certainly Steve Sabins has a lot of options, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, given what he told us the other day, where he tried so many different players out at first base out of necessity this offseason and preseason with Grant Hussey not being here anymore. That was your staple at first base for 4+ years, it felt like. So a tryout by fire, it seems like over at first, Brody picked it up pretty quickly, so he might be your de facto first baseman once the year gets going, especially if Matt Gravline continues to progress and be the type of catcher that Steve spoke about him as earlier this week. And if Gavin Kelly just feels more natural at second maybe than he is at catcher, and especially too, once you get into this year, if you can just tell, and by you, I guess I mean Steve and this coaching staff, if they get the sense, right, that Gavin is a better hitter, more productive hitter when he's playing second, off his feet a little bit more compared to when he's behind the plate, and you have a more than serviceable option at catcher and Matt Graveline, I think you're going to do that. That's where this will trend eventually, if that's how it bears out. But if you can do a 50-50 split and almost have, guys like these Division II transfers on the pitching staff that I know we're going to talk about, if they have a better feel with one catcher over the other, and you can mix and match that and have success, that's where you can really have a really solid roster, and that versatility comes back into question.
Yes,
or into play, I should say.
It's unusual you have two catchers who would play the field on their off days, but you don't always have two catchers who you want in the lineup every single day. So that's where because you never want to take Gavin out.
Right.
And Matthew Graveline sounds like has had a phenomenal offseason. I mean, Steve was glowing about him, so you want to keep him in every day. And usually the way you see catchers is like the starter Friday, Saturday, backup Sunday, or backup Saturday just so they don't catch 2 in a row. If you can do a 50-50 split, I mean, it can be as simple as just like, hey, just every other game. Just flip, and it keeps kind of the wear off the guy's tires. The one position you mentioned that maybe we don't know is third base. An option for third would have been Armani Guzman. Kind of had a parallel breakout with Gavin last year. He's going to be center fielder. It sounds like full-time either center or left, wherever he ends up. So he's out at third base, but like I said, another guy like Gavin last year really kind of came into his, especially late in the year, really came on and flashed some really great skills.
Yeah, Armani was really one of the heroes of the Clemson Regional, right? I mean, a guy who didn't hit very well for most of the season. He had a couple really loud hits, a couple big home runs at times throughout last season, but then you got into the postseason, and for whatever reason, he really just turned it up to 11. It was really interesting and really cool to see Armani have that success when it was the most important time of the year for West Virginia. So, yeah, it sounds like he's sliding out to the outfield, which is probably his more natural position. He played a little bit of infield last year, but just never seemed as comfortable, I think, to the naked eye, I guess you could say, as he did in the outfield. So he's out there. In center field, Tyrus Hall, another new guy on this team, right? Sounds like is the starting third baseman, but that could be up in the air based on, again, what happens those first couple of series in the non-conference play. And the really interesting thing, Cody, that we heard was, again, going back to catcher for a second, if you have Graveline behind the plate, you've got Brody at first, you've got Gavin Kelly at second, then you have Matt Einich at short, and Tyrus Hall at third. You've got 4 former shortstops around the diamond. And I tell you, I know Steve said that he really likes having kind of a rigid, like, every day you can depend on it up the middle. But if you can have that flexibility, you can do a lot with defensive positioning, especially the more and more college baseball, especially WVU, dives into analytics.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the profile is just athletic, right? And that's what Steve said. They don't have, like, big guys that can't move on the corners. That kind of what Grant Hussey was. I mean, he was a good defensive first baseman. But
really good defensive
he was
first
big,
baseman.
and he didn't move like Brody Kresser's going to move.
Right.
One other returner, let's talk about Ben Lumsden. Another guy, I mean, didn't really hear from him all year. Huge hit in the regional. I mean, comes out of nowhere, starts some games late in the postseason. Sounds like he's going to be in the mix. Maybe everyday first baseman, but if he hits well enough, maybe right field, maybe somewhere else.
And obviously the DH position always open. We really didn't get into that with Steve at all. And, at times that's fluctuated over the years, both with Steve and with Randy Mazey as well, of how do you use that DH spot? Do you use it for a guy who just needs a day? Do you have a kind of perennial DH who you're going to use day in, day out, no matter who the opponent is? But, yeah, Ben Lumsden, a guy who hit 160 last year, really did not have a good offensive year at all until, like you said, the Clemson Regional, and there in Baton Rouge as well. He had some hits and provided some offensive spark for West Virginia. So, yeah, again, that versatility, right? Will he be at first whenever Brody's at second, or will it be any other names who's at first? And then what do you do in the outfield? Because it sounds like, you've got Armani in the outfield, pretty much there in center field. But Paul Schoenfield, a transfer that West Virginia seems very, very high on. That's a name who I think is going to be in the lineup just about every day for West Virginia. So, okay, does he fit in more right or left? Reading between the lines, I got the sense right from Steve is about where he'll kind of fit in, and then left field becomes an open spot. But does that change based on lineup? Again, because one thing Steve spoke about was in the outfield, you've got essentially 4 pretty solid left-handed hitting. options in the outfield, right? And then you've got 2 right-handed hitting options in the outfield that are projected to be in the lineup more often than not. Certainly you're going to have those days where you're going to have, hey, we got to get someone, whoever that someone is, we got to get him some playing time. But the regular rotation in the outfield, it's going to be 4 lefties, it sounds like, 2 righties. Does that change positionally where a guy like Paul Schoenfield, Ben Lumsden, some of these other guys, Sean Smith maybe, another transfer fits in?
Right. And let's go to the mound now. Big returner on the mound, Chase Meyer. We did get some news from Steve. Broke a finger this offseason. Is 100% now, but is a few weeks behind. So he's going to open up out of the bullpen, which is where he pitched most of last year. But I think we probably thought he would slide into a starting spot this year. But at least to begin, he's going to come out of the bullpen and probably be pretty good.
Yeah, so for most programs, that's a typical evolution of a pitcher, right? For most programs, you start out as a freshman in the bullpen, maybe you get a spot start every once in a while. Sophomore year, if you take that leap, okay, maybe you're the midweek guy. And by junior year, the hope is you are a Friday, Saturday, Sunday starter wherever you wind up. But yeah, for Chase, it sounds like partially due to injury. I think also, too, just partially due to his makeup and his between pitch mix, his just how he carries himself on the mound, and I mean that in a good way. He sets up as a reliever. His preseason accolades were all for him being a reliever, so I think the expectation really kind of throughout the industry is he will mainly be a reliever for this team. I think that really bodes well for West Virginia. They brought in 3 Division II guys that have good starting experience. They're very high on Ian Korn being among them. But so you've got 3, it sounds like, really good options for a weekend starter. The midweek guy has always been in flux for West Virginia. Someone, or it's been a spot where you can either get someone, hey, we're high on this one or high on this guy. This guy's got the hot hand right now. Give him a start, see if he's ready for the big lights of Big 12 play. Okay, maybe Chase starts 1 or 2 of those games once he gets ramped back up here in a couple of weeks. But I really like Chase coming out of the bullpen because if Chase is right, Reese Bassinger is right, another big returner for this West Virginia team. And if Carson Estridge is right, 7th, 8th, 9th, or really 5th through 9th, you can have that locked down. Because Reese showed last year he can go multiple innings. Chase, with his experience as a starter, he can go multiple innings for sure. Carson Estridge, another guy who has started in the past, he can go multiple innings. I mean, really, if all those guys are throwing well, you add in Ben McDougal, who got some preseason love on the Stopper of the Year watch list by the NCBWA. If you've got those big 3, plus Ben McDougal, and any of these other relievers that maybe just we don't know yet, kind of like a Jack Kartsonis last year, right? If you get those 3 guys humming, starter, I need you to get to the 4th inning, and then we will take it the rest of the way out of the bullpen. That should be the goal, I think, for West Virginia throughout this year, especially when things get ramped up in Big 12 play. We need the starter, whether it's Ian Korn, Chase Colson, Maxiel, whoever that becomes. Get us to the 5th unscathed, and we'll take it the rest of the way.
And talking about relievers that can go multiple innings, if we go back a few years, Carlson Reed, closer, I'm sure you remember, he would come in the 6th and just finish it out because he had the length to do that. He get drafted. He's as a starting pitcher in the minor leagues right now.
Yeah.
So you add
Chanson Cole, I should say, by the way. I messed up his name. Chanson Cole, I apologize.
But you add 3 guys who you really trust that can go multiple innings. Like you said, a starter has a short outing, that's fine. Chase throw 2, Reese throw 2, Eskridge throw 2. Hey, game's over.
And I really liked, too, what Steve said earlier this week. I don't think I've heard him really describe kind of that D2 mentality this way, but I thought it was a really interesting point that these guys from the lower levels, Division II especially, which West Virginia's had a lot of success with over here, especially over the last couple of years, D2, lower level guys coming in as pitchers, they have the mentality, a couple of runs early doesn't hurt me. My career's not over because I give up a couple runs maybe in the 1st or 2nd inning. I've still got a chance, especially with a good offense, to at least get a no decision and help my team win a ball game. Whereas sometimes I think because of the pressure at this level, the guys who start here, they don't just feel that way. They don't have that mentality. So when you have guys with that mentality, you hope that's infectious, I'm sure, if you're Steve Sabins and company, but you hope that they can continue to have that mentality where a couple of runs early on, it's not great, but it's not going to kill you today, hopefully. And again, get to the 5th, get to the 6th, then you can turn it over to a really good bullpen, which has been a strength at times for West Virginia in the past. They've certainly gone through ebbs and flows, right, as every bullpen does. But, I mean, throughout this recent run of success the last couple of years, there have been some really good bullpen arms back there.
And a guy who won't be in the bullpen, you already mentioned him, Max Yell, coming back from Tommy John surgery, did not pitch last year, but 2 years ago was used out of the bullpen, pitched about 30 innings, was pretty good, lefty. Steve said he's going to be the Saturday starter to start off. So what do you, I didn't see him last year, but from 2 years ago, what do you remember about Max Yell?
High velocity, but also it's always control. And with all these bigger guys, bigger bodied guys, I should say, that West Virginia's had, right? Robbie Porco in the past, Max Yale, Carson Estridge is in that group as well. It's how well they can control their pitches, because you can throw 95 to 100 all you want, but if it's not anywhere close to the plate, it really doesn't matter, right? So control is the big thing. Hopefully that's been something that Max really worked on, for lack of a better word, over this last year as he was rehabbing. And again, when we saw him in the past, he was such a young pitcher, right? Just still feeling his way throughout the college game. But if Max can come back, show that potential he had 2 years ago, plus have the wisdom of someone who got to watch all of last year, soak up the information from a guy like Griffin Kern, right, of how to be a really good college pitcher, it feels like you've got a really good Saturday option in the mix there for Max Yale.
Right. And it's interesting. It's young pitchers, it's always control. That's always the thing they come in. To take a year off, and with Tommy John, you kind of have to relearn how to throw. It will be interesting because we always see year-over-year development. We never see, 2 years development. So it will be interesting. Obviously, if Steve's just like, hey, you're a Saturday guy, there's some trust there. He's going to be look good. And like you said, big, power-throwing lefty. That's what I remember, too, is throws it really hard, but maybe doesn't know where. Right. So that'll be interesting. That's really probably the important returners, right? Like some guys in the field, some guys in the pen, some guys in the starting rotation. Like we said, it's about half and half mix this year, returners and newcomers. We will talk about the newcomers in the second half of the show. We're going to hear something from Steve right now. A short clip of his about 40-minute long press conference. I won't play the whole thing. A short clip, him talking about what he thinks about this year's team.
My children's dentist had referred us here for their wisdom tooth extraction. I'd actually had the same procedure performed here some years earlier, so I felt very confident that this was the right practice for my family. We've always had a great experience with Mountain State. Everyone from the front desk to the attending doctor to the nurse to the aftercare. We were very satisfied with the result, as was our dentist. I would certainly recommend this practice very highly, and absolutely a 5-star experience for us.
Searching for a mortgage lender that's 100% local, personal, and focused on home loans? First Green Mortgage has been serving West Virginia for more than 35 years, and they can assist you with every step of your home ownership journey. Visit them in Bridgeport or Morgantown or at fgm.bank.
The rankings mean nothing and are of zero importance to the program, but the fact that the peers of the college coaches in this league respecting the program certainly means something. And I think most of us don't really know what the other schools are going to be like. We recruit some of the players, but the unique part about WVU is that we're a little bit on an island. It's maybe a hair different now that Cincinnati's in the league, but I don't think Oklahoma State, Arizona State, BYU, Houston, or UCF has any idea who the hell Dawson Montesa is, or Ian Korn, or Matt Einish, or some of the portal players that we brought in. Maybe you ran into them or evaluated them on the transfer portal side, but it's really more about a respect for a program and a culture that's being built, where you start to just respect the people in the league and say year in and year out they put a quality product on the field, they recruit the right kind of kids, their staff's elite, those kind of things. And so that's certainly flattering to be considered a top program preseason by the coaches.
That was second-year West Virginia manager Steve Sabins when we talked to him earlier this week. Interesting thing, obviously we've had a brutal winter, historically brutal winter. They actually kind of went out of the way to go down south to North and South Carolina to scrimmage a little bit. It sounds like they scrimmaged somebody else maybe on Friday in Charlotte, and then a couple of inter squads when they went to Columbia, South Carolina. I don't know that Randy ever had to do that. Randy Mazey ever had to, but we haven't had a winter this bad in a while.
Right, well, it was like Steve said, so I think it was Steve's first year here, really bad winter, a lot of snow, they had to get creative. Certainly at that point they didn't have the biomechanics facility. You're trying to split time with football to use the indoor practice facility over there by Milan Pushkar Stadium, so a different circumstance for sure. But yeah, the ability to go down and get some preseason games essentially under your belt, certainly that helps figure out what you got as a team, right? And also just gets you out of this brutal winter that we've had.
I don't know about you, Deck, and I don't know about anybody listening. I've certainly driven past the baseball field a few times this winter, and I've seen them out there, and I checked the thermometer in my car. It's like, I don't know, 17 degrees. I don't know, guys. But no, I think it was good. I don't think the first time you want to field live ground balls is the first game of the year.
Sure.
Right? So I think obviously they felt they needed to do that, so they bust down there and did that. And let's talk about the biometrics facility. It's obviously good for your team. It's a great selling point in recruiting, which we're going to segue into. A ton of transfers this year, a ton of a different kind of transfer where it's guys with a ton of experience coming up from lower levels. There's a few guys who are like from Tennessee or Hawaii who didn't pitch very much and you're betting on promise, but guys who like proved it at lower levels, they like it. You mentioned the 3 Division II pitchers. Let's go over them. Ian Korn, the reigning Division II National Pitcher of the Year.
Yeah, right.
Dawson Montesa, a fellow All-American down at Division II, and then Chanson Cole, who we'll start with. A freshman last year, certainly had good numbers. A freshman at Newberry College, 3.39 ERA, almost 100 strikeouts. The shock of what Steve said this week for me is he's the Friday starter.
Yeah,
the
right.
The youngest guy that they've brought in, he must just be enamored with him.
And it goes back to conversations I've had with Randy Mazey over the years, and Steve got into this a little bit last year, I think, at times, but it's just all about how you want to really organize your pitching staff, right? Some guys want, or some managers, coaches, I should say, they want Friday to be undoubtedly our aces on the mound. Another school of thought is, okay, if you know by and large your opponent is throwing their ace on the mound, why run your ace out there the exact same time, especially if you have confidence in your lineup, in your position players to be able to do what they're going to do. Save your ace for Saturday, save it for Sunday if you want. So, yeah, certainly, starting a guy like Chanson Cole on a Friday night certainly says that you've got a lot of trust in him, but I think it's just a different way of thinking, too, of how to go about and how to attack these weekend series, especially once you get to Big 12 play. But a guy 7-5 last year, you mentioned the 3.39 ERA, 97 strikeouts and 87 2/3 innings. You hope that translates here to West Virginia in the Division I level, but certainly you throw a sophomore out there as your Friday guy, to go back to what you said to start, you've got some trust in that guy to get the job done.
Yeah. And these Division II guys, they've obviously had success the last couple of years. Griffin Kern last year, Derek Clark the year before came up and were the aces of the staff. Do you feel that West Virginia has been ahead of the curve on this in this transfer portal era where everybody's looking for value everywhere, and Randy and now Steve is basically like, pitching is pitching, right? You got a mound, you got the plate. The batters might be better, but you still got to throw the ball over the plate. So let's just go get the best Division II guys. And I think maybe this year, like we've seen it I think this year is Steve really going both feet in on this idea that it doesn't matter the level. If you can pitch, you can pitch.
And I think geography plays a bit of a role in that as well. For geographically, West Virginia, a bit of a Big 12 outlier. They are kind of in their own little bubble as far as good Power 4, Power 5, high major, whatever you want to call it, teams are, where they are right now geographically. So, yeah, if you're West Virginia, you can go into some different pockets and not feel like you're competing against SEC and ACC powers, and you feel like you're getting just as good of a product that no one else knows about. It's great, I would think, and Steve, I think, alluded to this earlier this week, that it's kind of nice to get someone that maybe no one else in your conference has ever even heard of.
Right.
Eventually you get deep enough into the season, okay, there's tape out on everybody, right? People are going to figure it out. But at least at the start of the year, if you can pick up a guy like Ian Korn, who might be the D2 National Pitcher of the Year, does Arizona know that?
Right.
Does Arizona State know that? TCU, have they studied him at all? Probably not, because of where they're at geographically. So it's a really interesting way to attack. It goes back to something I've always thought has been a strong suit of West Virginia baseball here in the last decade or so, of WVU, the coaching staff, going into different pockets of the country, finding guys who aren't necessarily being recruited by the blue blood programs of college baseball, essentially, and saying, hey, we think you are just as good as the kids who are going there. Come here, beat them.
Right.
And by and large, it's what West Virginia's done.
Yeah. Let's talk about the next two guys, Dawson Montesa, Ian Korn, guys that are from this region of the country. Ian Korn was at Seton Hill, which is up here, and Monteza's at Adelphi, which I think is on Long Island. So up here, obviously away from, like you said, all the other Big 12 schools, all the SEC schools, maybe they are hidden. And let's start with Montesa, a guy that, maybe the guy that Steve just raved about. He called him a superstar. And like you're saying, like at the Division II school, they don't have TrackMan. They don't even have reliable radar guns. So Steve said they were trying to recruit this kid, and they were like, we don't even really know how hard he throws. And he actually said, like, they heard a story he was throwing, 95 in a snowstorm.
95
and they were
in
like,
a snowstorm, yeah.
It was just the legend of Dawson Montesa.
Yes.
And then he went to a summer league that had at least a radar gun, and they're like, oh, okay, this guy is legit.
Right.
Let's bring him in. So maybe there is something to, like, is Baylor going to put the resources in to scout a guy in Long Island who they can't get even velocity numbers for?
Sure, right.
But I don't know. But Montesa, 1.99 ERA, 105 strikeouts. He broke his school's single-season strikeout record. And it gets back to kind of what Steve's main thing was, like, if you throw 100 innings or approach 100 innings, you almost don't need other stats, because that says you stayed healthy all year and you were effective all year. And that's kind of all you need out of a starter, right? Like, pitch a bunch of innings that are effective, don't get blown up. And that's kind of where I think he's coming with these. Like, if you throw 100 innings in Division II, you can throw 100 innings for me.
Right, and it's Division II innings, which, like, you feel like maybe not as much of a stress level on the arm, right, as what you're going to have at the Division I level. Now, certainly, again, the resources aren't there, so maybe arm care is a little bit different. But, yeah, you throw 100 innings or thereabouts at the Division II level, it shows that, A, you've got the mentality we talked about earlier, right? But you're dependable. Just like you were saying, you're a guy who's going to go out there every weekend, maybe more at the Division II level, depending on how your program's set up, and you're going to throw your 5, 6, 7 innings a day, call it an afternoon, and give your ball club a really good chance. I mean, I could sit here and read the accolades for Dawson Montesa, but
it's a lot.
It's a lot. it's most of the computer screen, right? So certainly a guy, and like you took the words right out of my mouth. Steve called him a superstar and the legend of Montesa. So 92, 95, good stuff, good spin, said Steve earlier this week. And the other phrase he used, which I just really liked, stupidly talented. I mean, it's an interesting phrase, but it's a heck of a confidence.
Paints a picture.
Yes, it does, when you are stupidly talented. So, again, an older guy who's been there and done that. He comes here as a junior, so he does have a little bit of eligibility left. But, yeah, I mean, a guy that has certainly been there and done that at the lower level. And you're kind of banking on, just like Ian Korn, that they can get it done here with all the accolades and success they've had previously.
Yeah, and just to touch on Korn, like we said, the Division II National Pitcher of the Year, 1.81 ERA, 84 innings, 83 strikeouts, 14 starts. You do the math, 84 innings, 14 starts. He wasn't getting pulled early. Like you said, these guys have a different mentality of, like, a run or two early isn't going to hurt them. Both because they have that mentality, but also because the guys coming out of the bullpen aren't better than them. Right. So if you're Ian Korn's manager and he gives up too early, it's like, well, do I let him see if he can find it, or do I bring somebody in that's worse? And so, yeah, and we kind of saw that. I think more maybe Derek Clark than Griffin Curran, but Griffin had it too. I mean, just go out there and, like, hey, I don't have my best stuff. I don't care. Right. I'm going to go 5 innings.
And it's the difference between a guy who is a pitcher and a guy who is a thrower, right? These pitchers, in every sense of the word, they're going to be able to find their way through a game, even if they don't have their best stuff. And sometimes, and again, more younger guys fit into this. If you're just a thrower, you're probably not going to be able to do that more often than not, especially once you get to this level. But, yeah, Ian Korn, I mean, all the accolades in the world, first-team All-American, first-team All-Region last year, D2 National Pitcher of the Year, as we said. I do want to go back to Chance and Cole just for a second. Sure. The recruiting was really interesting to me. That kind of stood out, what Steve talked about, was with Chance and Cole goes down to the Clemson Regional last year, watches West Virginia play there in Clemson, and before West Virginia heads back to Morgantown, before going to Baton Rouge, they kind of sit down and have a meal, and Chance and Cole's like, hey, I'm a Mountaineer, let's go, right? So, like, that's what you can do, right? The impact of making the NCAA tournament is so huge. Obviously, making a Super Regional 2 years in a row like West Virginia has done, it opens a lot of doors for you, but when you can do that, get a kid there in the regional, which you hope moving forward is here more times than not, that's how you can close a deal on some of these really talented guys.
And you sweep the regional.
And it's
3 insane games.
Yes, in very entertaining fashion. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have someone come to a regional, that's where it was.
That was the one to do it, absolutely. And last thing on these pitches, we talk about versatility. hey, we've named, these are 3 starters. Usually have 3 weekend starters. We already told you Maxiel is going to start. Maybe Chase Myers gets work backed up. It's versatility, right?
Right.
The world's not ending if somebody gets hurt or somebody has to miss 2 weeks or anything else, because you have all these guys who will probably be bullpen arms, right, if they're not starting. We don't figure these older guys would be the weekday starter.
One of them might have to be.
Just to get the innings.
Yeah.
But it's versatile. It's just like with Gavin Kelly. You're not worried if somebody gets hurt because you throw him out wherever. You don't get worried if one of these stars gets hurt because you've loaded up on guys.
Right. And the other side of the mentality equation, too, that we haven't really discussed is Randy and Steve and the guys, Jagar, who's in charge of recruiting now, they've done a really good job, too, of not only bringing guys here who are mentally strong when the game starts, but in between games, guys who ego's just not going to get in the way, right? So, like, had Derek Clark not been a successful Friday or Saturday starter, Derek Clark had the makeup to move to a weekday role, and he would have been just fine mentally, right? That's what West Virginia's done a really good job finding over the last couple of years, is guys who fit that makeup in between games, that they'll take whatever role that they're kind of assigned and they're going to attack it. That's a big part of this recruiting equation as well.
A few transfer hitters that we're definitely going to see. Deck mentioned earlier, Paul Schoenfield is going to be in the center field mix with Armani. And I'm going to name some outfielders. I don't need to read off all this. They all mashed, right?
Yeah.
At their lower, they were either, is it Group of 5 in baseball too? Group of 5?
Yep.
Or Division II or JUCO. They mashed. But Paul Schoenfeld, it sounds like he's kind of the main guy that's like, yes, absolutely. He hit 420 last year.
Right.
Sean Smith, who was at Georgia Southern, who West Virginia opens with on Friday, he's another guy that's going to be in the mix. And then Brock Wills, UNCW, another guy that's going to be in the mix. Like I said, I'm not going to read off all this. They mashed. All their offensive numbers are really, really good. Schoenfield, Colorado Mesa, which one of the schools you don't hear a lot about. Matthew Graveline, or Graveline, like gravel. Gravel, not grave.
Yep.
Catcher / left fielder, it sounds like.
Don't see it every day, but he mashed too.
Maybe first base, I think Steve said. Maybe DH, I guess, if you just need a spot. He was at Ohio State. Great numbers, double-digit home runs. He actually played more games in left than at catcher.
Right.
But a guy Steve was just singing about, like he said, Matthew got here, and we were like, oh, my God, this dude's a catcher.
Yep.
And then Matt Einish, who you mentioned is the starting shortstop from Ohio U, was a freshman last year. One of these guys did not play early. Like, you look up his game by game, did not play early, did not hit early. And then at some point, he obviously got in the starting lineup, and he just took off. He hit 387. And I know that's the MAC, but, like, that was mostly their conference schedule he played and hit extremely well for a freshman. And it's like, hey, all right, come on up to the to the Big 12. And again, another guy, Steve, obviously just raved about it. It sounds like it's going to be like the solid shortstop.
Yep, for sure.
As long as he can handle it.
And another guy who Steve talked, at least mentioned the other day, was Maxwell Malessa, a West Virginia kid out of Pullman, went to Williamstown High School, a guy who outfielder is what he's listed as a redshirt freshman, maybe figures into the first base equation as well. Another guy who at least tried on the big mid over there at some point earlier this year. But and you just go up and down this roster. Zahir Barjam, another first-year guy, a freshman.
Interesting recruit.
Really highly regarded and very talented, sounds like. Again, he's 5'10", so not the tallest guy in the world, but they tried him over at first.
Yeah, international guy, right?
So he is from Dominican Republic. Yeah, played in South Carolina, I think, for at least part of his high school career. But a guy they tried over at first. Does he at some point fit into the outfield? Maybe, if you're trying to get him some innings, or is he in that second base equation too? I mean, versatility. Keep coming back to it.
That's the thing we can't do right now. Like all the guys we've mentioned have played. We've either seen or they played somewhere else. There's going to be freshmen like Gavin Kelly that don't play this first series or these first 2 weeks, or that come on and are really dependent on late in the year. And it's either the guys you just mentioned, maybe it's a guy nobody has talked about yet. Maybe it's a guy we won't see until March or April.
The Golden Blue Nation baseball preseason podcast, as well as we have done predicting things in the past, every year we miss one.
Yeah.
We miss J.J. Weatherholt.
Oh, yeah.
I miss J.J. Weatherholt, right? So if we've named you, if we haven't named you, congratulations. You're in for a great season, right?
I mean, we've named, I don't know, 20 guys at least.
Yeah.
We absolutely missed a guy. We've missed a guy who might be all conference.
That's how it works.
Don't know. We see what we see and we hear what we hear. Last thing we were talking about, like you mentioned, baseball, back-to-back super regionals obviously has raised the standard for the program quite a bit.
Yeah.
Steve said basically, picked third in the Big 12. Steve said basically, we don't care. We don't care what we're ranked. That matters. He did care, however, the respect that this program gets from opposing coaches is certainly much higher than when he got here, but even higher than the last few years. That's, to him, what's important.
And I think within that too, right? So you've got TCU, who's the preseason favorite, and very deservedly so. They've got 3, 4, 5, maybe All-Americans, depending on what site you look at. Arizona's next. Again, another team with multiple guys who could be in an All-American conversation, even though they've just lost one of their best, if not the best, bullpen arms for the entire season, unfortunately. West Virginia, one preseason All-Conference guy. There were teams, picked to finish well below WVU with at least one, if not multiple, preseason guys who were recognized by the Big 12 or All-American status, whatever. So for West Virginia to be picked third with just one preseason All-Big 12, that means you've got a well-rounded team and a well-rounded roster, which maybe there's not a star, and maybe Gavin Kelly isn't a preseason All-Big 12 guy because where the heck do you put him on a ballot, right? Do you put him at catcher? Do you put him at second? Do you put him anywhere else? But, by the way, the preseason Big 12 was Chase Meyer, if we didn't say that.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, the respect that I think West Virginia's earned the last couple of years around not only the Big 12 but around the country is certainly there, and that's why you've got one poll that ranks the Mountaineers at the start of the year. The main poll of record D1 baseball has WVU just outside the top 25. It's a team that's going to be there in the top 25, certainly at some point this year.
And you mentioned, how do you not have a bunch of Big 12 preseason guys, but you're third? Because the other coaches respect you. They respect the program. They respect Steve Sabins. I guess last thing, maybe just touch on, Steve got asked about potential upgrades at Kendrick Family Ballpark.
Yes.
Some things that we've heard maybe whispers about or things. Seating on the berms and maybe some better sight lines down third base.
Down the left field line, yeah. So that was one I had not heard of, but as soon as he said it, I was like, that could work. Right, so
because everybody you can stand out in right field.
Yeah, so
you can't stand out in right.
Yeah, so
in
if
left
you've been
field.
to Kendrick Family Ballpark, you know that it can get very congested behind home plate on the concourse area. So you're constantly asking yourself, what can we do? What can the university do to alleviate some of that pressure, that congestion? Part of it would be to replicate what you've got down the right field line, where you've got a lower fence with a bar top, essentially. You put down the left field line, it improves sight lines and gives people more places to stand. I know there is, or I would suspect there is, the question of, okay, but if you do that, are more people going to stand down the lines than you're going to have sitting behind home plate? So the field will feel full, but it doesn't maybe look full to those watching from home, right? So I'm sure that's being weighed, the pros and cons of that. The berm has always been something that's been talked about. I know one idea that's been floated out there that I personally love is to just completely get rid of the berm on the first base side, completely get rid of that, and put in, whether you want to call them stables, stalls, however you want to do it, 4, 5, maybe 6, depending on how big you want to make them. And either you let people have those as kind of another sweet option, or do you just make that an in-stadium tailgating, which would be very similar to the SEC culture. And SEC teams draw really, really well, right? Yeah. They have a lot of success. They draw really, really well. I think that'd be fantastic. Yeah. I think that'd be so cool if at one point here in the next couple of years, we're able to go to a game there at Kendrick Family Ballpark, and you got a stable full of people, just say 20 people to a stable, we'll call it, and they've got their own grills. You've got smoke coming over from a barbecue over the field of play. Just, kind of get that SEC flair in here a little bit. I think that's part of the reason the SEC has been so successful is because they have a really great culture when it comes to college baseball.
Well, for transparency, Dick, you have a personal vendetta against the first base berm, don't you?
Well, okay, I didn't know we were going to get into that. Okay, so yes, I did fall 2 years ago. Maybe that was last year. I don't know. Did fall, got very muddy. Shout out Nick Farrell for giving me his pants for the day.
So no wonder you went a bulldozer.
Well, hey, look, I've been on this gravy train before I fell. So I will say that. The other thing I will say as well is that, the left field side, do you level it off to a degree, similar to what other parks like Kentucky, if anyone went to the regional there a few years ago, where you've got one level, so a bit of a retaining wall, another level, just to make that a little bit easier to navigate for fans and for media as well.
I was going to bring up Kentucky. They had basically the same seating as West Virginia, but then instead of the berms, it was cement kind of, I don't know, platforms basically, where it was kind of two-leveled, and it was people like bring a folding chair or something. And we've seen people bring like picnic blankets and sit on but the berms are, even the third base one, it's steep.
It's steep,
It's like, so I do, like, that's the obvious solution is do knock them down or level them out or do something, and then people could, and you don't have to add more seating, which is expensive.
Right.
Bring a folding chair, bring a plastic chair, bring a picnic blanket, and just sit. And it was interesting, Steve kind of brought that up very candidly and talked very passionately about it. So you would imagine that's maybe, they got the biomechanics. That's probably like the next big project.
Yeah, it feels like that's the next one because you got the biomechanics facility out of the way. You got the scoreboard out of the way last year with the Griffin Kern family donating those resources, which was great. He mentioned the seat backs as well. Need to replace the 2,500 or so that's there. So it feels like general facility upgrade. If you want to use a really broad term, that would be the next thing. Amenities, I guess is a better way to put that. Maybe amenities for fans.
Yeah. Well, we won't be back to Kendrick Family Ballpark till the end of the month. I think 24th is the
it's gonna
home
be here
opener.
Before you know it.
Hopefully,
2:00. Be there, be square.
Hopefully, it actually feels like baseball by then. It certainly doesn't today. We're 2 days out from the actual opening day. They're down in Georgia this week. They play next weekend too, and then before you know it, they'll be playing here.
Yep.
So bundle up, maybe, get your tickets, and we'll see you out at the ballpark.
Yep, certainly so. Well, this has been another great edition of the Gold and Blue Nation podcast, the baseball preseason edition, which I just can't wait to see who we missed out on. Like you said, we named 20 guys, and we're going to miss out on somebody. But as always, the Gold and Blue Nation podcast is brought to you by Mountain State Oral and Facial Surgery, home of the same-day smile. Make sure to stick with us here at Golden Blue Nation for WVU men's and women's basketball coverage as well, as this season is really heating up right now as we're getting towards the postseason portion of the schedule. So that'll do it for us. Cody Nespor, Ryan Decker, thanks for listening. See you next time.